Samsung was inexplicably absent from Qualcomm's official partners list when the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip became official last week. Worry not, Samsung S23 models will be getting the Snapdragon chipset. Better yet, they could use a special version of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 with a higher clock CPU and GPU. In comparison to the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, the regular Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 is said to have a 35% faster CPU and a 25% quicker GPU. And with higher clock speeds, it will get ever faster, but it is yet unknown just how much. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 standard model, SM8550AB, has an Adreno 740 GPU clocked at 680 MHz, a Cortex-X3 Prime CPU core running at 3.19 GHz, 4 mid-CPU cores running at 2.8 GHz, and 3 power-efficient Cortex-A510 CPU cores, all of which I have already mentioned in my previous video. In contrast, it appears that the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor, SM8550AC, that will power the Galaxy S23 has a primary CPU core clocked at 3.36 GHz and a GPU clocked at 719 MHz. So in reality, this is a plus variant of the processor, which is usually released in the second half of the year after the release of a new chip. The Samsung Galaxy S23 is most likely to be unveiled in February 2023. Not only are the leaks all pointing in that way, but new models in the line have typically been introduced in February for years now, with the exception of the Samsung Galaxy S21, which was announced in January 2021. So although it will not be like 6 months, Samsung will be getting the fastest processor in the world. It is around the month of May that Snapdragon releases its Plus variant. Anyways, Samsung and Qualcomm recently entered into a multi-year agreement that calls for the use of the Snapdragon chipset in all of their devices, including computers, tablets, extended reality headsets, high-end phones, and other devices. So it's highly likely that Samsung will use only Snapdragon processors and not Exynos on its S23 models. Well, that is all for this video. If you want to know more about the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip, check out my previous video. I appreciate you watching the entire video, and see you in the next one.